As an interlude, before other people come down the stairs here, I want to debunk something. I'm going to assume that not everybody knows how to read Hebrew or the phonetics, right? So I'm going to show you something here while we're waiting. Again, I'm not going to. I'll jump on the Eben in a moment, but this is Exodus 33:22. I'll read it in English first, and we'll look at it briefly in Hebrew. This is Moshe saying, I want to see your glory. I want you to show me your splendor. Your kavod is the word. And he says, Yahweh speaking says, we'll back up verse 21. Yahweh said, behold, there is a place near me where you may stand on the rock. So this has to do with, we're going to stand on the rock. It's near Yahuwah. When my glory, that's the word kavod, when my glory passes by, I shall place you in a cleft of the rock. I shall shield you with my hand until I have passed. Does anybody know here how to read modern Hebrew a little bit? Who knows how to read modern Hebrew? Huh? She's not here. We have to wait. Okay. I'm just going to tell you, if you can't, it's here. The word for I will place my hand is spelled in modern Hebrew, kaf, pei, that's hand, yod. I'm going to place my hand upon you. And the word for placing or shielding is where we get the word for sukkah. This is spelled shin kaf tav, or sukkot. The thing about sukkot is you're supposed to make these temporary dwellings, thatched branches, little huts. It's the word for screen or covering. So kind of like you'll he says you can't see my face, but if I put this, if you're like in this somehow, and remember the word in, I'm messing around here just so you know. The word in, which is bet, also means among or through. So if you just are wrapped up with this thing, then you can see his glory. Now, does anybody know how to pronounce this word? What letter is this in English? K. What letter is this in English?
P or F.
F. And what letter is this in English?
Y.
Y. How do you pronounce this word? Coffee. So if Yahweh lets you puts his coffee and you get all wrapped up in it, then you can see his glory. So don't let anybody tell you shouldn't drink coffee before you study. Thank you, Brenda. She went out and got some coffee for me here and made a. What's that? Well, yeah, you had. If you want to see the kavod of Yahweh, then.
That's good. God has a sense of humor.
I don't think that was God.
That's what he said. Okay, well, we're going to get going here. Okay, so, well, I'll give you another minute or two. Tim, wherever he's waiting for you, go ahead, finish what you're doing. Eben. Either that or we're talking about the NBA.
No, but it's Aben and you wrote even.
Excuse me?
I would say that Aben and you wrote even.
Because the aleph is silent, and it's by default given the eh sound. So like And the letter ayin also sometimes takes on that S sound. So, but that gets into a little bit more detailed. I'm trying to go over that and not even address that. You'll get that in your Hebrew class online where you sit there and listen to all the, okay, but I'm just trying to give you stuff right off the top so that you'll get a taste of it, make it a little bit more palpable, like, this means make it palpable, right, Mashiach, huh?
Like palpable, like cosmic.
Yeah.
Do you support the Jewish language that's coming out of Israel on internet? People are trying to learn how to speak and read the Jewish?
Well, the thing is, if you take a Hebrew class online, there's a bunch of them, you're going to spend hundreds, if not thousands of dollars, and you will learn the language. But see, modern language teaches you how to order something from the restaurant, or like if you learn any Spanish, you should learn these words. ¿Dónde es el baño?
Yes.
Where's the bathroom? Arriba. You know, you mean the tree or that? Just to say, I'm not joking around, but I am joking around. My brother, this is one of his favorite stories, I think. He told me way back when. You know, he goes to Nigeria, and there's these people, and they welcome into his house. And they live differently. They have different rooms. Instead of one big house segmented with rooms, they have different huts. Each one is a different room. And, you know, he's never been there before, and he doesn't know anything about their culture and stuff. And basically, it's like, ¿Dónde está el baño? You know, where's the bathroom? They say, well, it's that room right over there, you know. Goes in there, it's like, this is a pretty first-class place. They even have a fire pit in the bathroom to, you know, make it more comfortable. What he later found out, that was the cocina. That was the kitchen, not the bathroom. But here he is, you know, soaking the rocks of the fireplace. It's like, what the? If something gets lost in translation, it's like, oh, sorry about that. It's like, listen, don't let this guy in your house, you know. Make him use the tree or something. What I'm saying is that there is a place to learn modern language so that you can fit in with the culture and society. And most of modern Hebrew is probably the same as biblical, but any place you look online, they'll make a distinction between biblical Hebrew and modern Hebrew. So I wouldn't discredit the value of learning modern Hebrew. It probably has a lot of benefit, but syntax, use of words, meanings of words, like we're talking about the word regular, you know, is that regular army, is that infantry, or is that full-time? It's like, things change, and there's a modern culture, but biblical Hebrew has its own essence, and only by studying biblical Hebrew. But I've not done that. I've not done either. All I've done is looked at the dictionary and the Tanakh, and all this stuff is just what I've found from, I've maybe spent 1 hour looking at Jeff Benner's site, but yet I promote Jeff Benner. I've read one of Isaac Moseson's book, but I promote Isaac Moseson. I mean, he's got some incredible stuff. I just don't have the time to do all that research because I'm trying to research the scriptures and say, what do I see in here? So just so you know, I'm sitting here putting hundreds of hours worth of videos and stuff online saying, hey, people can watch it, but I don't even spend that much time watching somebody else. So I'm not even saying you should watch all my stuff. I'm just trying to help people find their own footing for walking this path. Right here. You're in the perfect spot. No, literally. Well, that's why I've got hundreds of hours of videos you can watch. That's right. Everything's for free. And listen, just for what it's worth, as far as copyright, it seems to me somebody tried to steal my stuff once, and so I said, I claim copyright, which means nobody can steal it, but everybody can have it. So make as many copies and send it out as far and wide as you want. Just take it and run with it. So the idea about this is to say, I'm trying to show you the alphabet and what the letters mean, so that as you contemplate each word, like regal, eben, halal, whatever it might be, use the dictionary. I found by getting, the reason, I mentioned this once before, I'll say it again while people are still getting here. The reason I like the Stones at Tanakh, it's Art Scroll is the publisher. They have all kinds of books. Is because this modern Hebrew print is so legible. This is the student edition. They have a slightly bigger book, exactly the same print, no difference, and it's easier to read. This is just a little easier to carry. But I like it nice and clear. But this is the publisher's format. If you get JPS, which is Jewish Publication Society, it's a different format, and it just bugs me a little. I just don't like it. You can get the Hallelujah scriptures now with the Hebrew on one side, different English translation. I just like this one, personal taste. This is Art Scroll, Stones, it's called Stones Tanakh. By the way, just, Tanakh is a phonetic acronym. TNK stands for T for Torah, N for Nevi'im. Tim, as we were reading earlier this morning, he mentioned the word Nevi'im. That's the word prophet. So Nevi'im is prophets. So TN, Torah, which is the law, the instructions, N for the prophets, and K stands for like ketubah, which is the marriage contract or the writings. Anything written is a ketubah. So it's TNK, Torah, prophets, and writings. That's Tanakh, just so you know. And here they spell it with a CH because that's a phonetic of a k, but it's actually the K for ketubah. So whether you have Tanakh spelled with a K or a CH, doesn't matter. Okay, I think everybody's in here. Stone is it says Stone Edition, and it's Art Scroll is the publishing house, TNACH if you're going to look online. Okay, so the reason for mentioning the word 1,000-year reign of Mashiach is because we've been told it's the messianic reign of 1,000 years. And so from a Christian ideology, Messiah means by default, without any question, that Jesus is here ruling for 1,000 years. And then whether that 1,000 years is us on the planet influencing and infecting the entire planet, or whether it's some specialized group in Israel with everybody else outside the fenced perimeter drooling and snarling teeth, if we could just get in there. And then you read Revelation 20 where they finally break in and they go to attack, and then he comes back again a third time. Well, I thought he was here already. You got to go back and look at Revelation 19, 20, and 21 again. The point is, we have this picture based on everything we've been taught. And for 2,000 years, people have either been looking at Revelation and trying to scrutinize, or they've been totally disregarding Revelation because it's impossible to figure out. Michael Rood happened to say, everything in Yahweh's kingdom is keyed to the festivals. Well, somebody pointed out the other day, to keep calling them festivals is not appropriate. The word is moedim, and ayin dalet has to do with the appointed time. Festival is the fact that we party and rejoice and eat. They're not feasts exactly, but they are. The word chag is feast. Just so you know, total distraction again. But the word chag is het gimel. This is the letter CH, phonetic. I usually write it with a CX. My wife says, quit writing CX. Nobody knows what you mean. The sound of this letter, literally, I looked in the dictionary. There's a place in Los Angeles called Sepulveda, near where I used to live. And for whatever reason, I was looking at the fact that the het is not just a fenced enclosure. Remember, like I said, like a citadel or like a castle wall or like the kingdom of Yahweh, but it's also a sepulcher, a place where you put a dead body, right? Sepulveda, sepulcher. It's the same word. So I looked up the word sepulcher in the English dictionary, and it says it also happens to be a low, gravelly voice. That's the way you pronounce the het. Another confirmation that this is exactly on track. So this letter is the sound of dragging a shovel behind you across the asphalt. Not smooth pavement, but gravel. What sound does the shovel make when you're dragging it behind you? That's the way you pronounce the het. Just so you know, Melchizedek doesn't use that letter. That's the letter Kaf. Melech. But if we say Melech Zedek, that's not right either, because the Jews, especially modern, pronounces the Kaf as also this gravelly voice, but not quite so gravelly, but it's written with a CH, so it's real Hebrew wouldn't be Melchizedek, but there's this guy, David Matthews, hey, just a matter of correction. He has these great teachings with Gematria, but he calls this a Chet. C-H-E-T. if you're trying to speak Hebrew, that just sounds like goyim talk. They don't know how to phonetically articulate properly because they keep writing it with a CH. So I refuse to write it with a CH, so I write it with a CX because it's, how do you spell that? How do you pronounce that? Just like that. Other people, I think we said the first day, write it with an H with a dot under it because it's the 8th letter, but if you write it with an H, you think, which is the way you phonetically say, hey. I don't want to get on a tangent, but that's why Hua and Eve, that's where Eve came from. It's Het Vav Aleph, I believe. Anyway, the point is, getting back to this, not to distract. What is this 1,000-year reign? If this is the time of his reign, why is it that Yahudim, the Jews, don't read the Old Testament Tanakh writings and anticipate that a man who happens to be referred to as a Messiah figure is going to sit and reign, unless it's David resurrected, reigning as a king and maybe a king and a priest, if you read Zechariah, in Jerusalem, reigning as dominant authority over the world. Why do the Jews see that? Why don't they see that this other Messiah is going to come from heaven to earth and somehow reign? Or if they do, why do they have a different notion of the Messianic era than do the Christians? Don't we use the same book, the same text? The Jews don't read Revelation. So if the Christians base the 1,000-year reign on what they read in Revelation and they ignore the Old Testament text, there's going to be a difference. Michael Rood was saying these Moedim are the key to everything in Yahuwah's kingdom. And so if the Christians ignore the Moedim, to their own ill, they have the wrong key. And the interesting puzzle that Yahuwah has put together regarding his matters, that if you don't take the full counsel, you'll be easily led astray. So I would liken it to this. If you're taking say a mathematics test, and you have a multiple choice answer, right? You're supposed to figure some kind of equation. And so they have one answer which is right, one answer which is completely wrong, and there's typically maybe two answers which, if you make a typical mistake, you're going to get one of those two answers. So if you make the typical mistake, and you say, oh, hey, look it, there's the answer right there, I must be right. That's to lead you astray. The typical mistake is given to you, and you have to know what you're doing to know that I'm not going to make that mistake. So the key to multiple choice questions when you're taking an exam is know that there's two phantoms which are easily to mistake. One you know is completely wrong, but there's one right. So if you don't have the Moedim, you're going to fall into one of the two phantoms. Is that Judaism and Christianity? Or is that Islam? I'm not trying to punch anybody in the nose. I'm just trying to observe what he set up. If you don't have the Moedim, you will fall into one of the typical mistakes. So the problem with Christianity is they have thrown out his name, his day, and his Moedim. They're done. They're lost. Stop even thinking anything. So if they spend 2,000 years, I'm not saying they're lost going to hell. I'm saying we're trying to figure out what Yahweh said. If they spend 2,000 years trying to decipher Revelation, having thrown out the Moedim and killed the Jews for having any reference of the covenant in the Old Testament, how much can we trust about their interpretation of Revelation? And if the Jews, going back to Ayin Dalet Ayin Tav of Daniel 12:4, right? And if Yahudim, if the Jews absolutely disregard that man who walked the face of the earth 2,000 years ago could be HaMashiach, the Word made flesh, the one we came to, the communication that we can grab a hold of. They grabbed a hold of the communication, and they punched holes in them, ripped him apart with Roman flails, and nailed him to a stick. Bury him in the ground. The Jews did that to the Word made flesh because of that man, because they didn't want to hear what he had to say. And ever since that man, the Christians have taken the Torah. Remember, he was the Word made flesh. He was the Torah incarnate. Ever since that man, the Christians have taken the Torah, punched holes into it, ripped the pages out of it, nailed it to a stick, and buried it in the earth. We've both done the same thing on account of that man. That man is the key to the whole thing, one way or the other. But Mashiach, the reign of Mashiach, question, is it that man, or is it what that man represents? Now, if we say, oh, the Christians have told us that man's coming back, I'm not denying that he's coming back. After all, I showed you in the alphabet where it says so. But I'm saying, what if there's more to the story? So what if this 1,000-year reign of Mashiach is Yahweh being our Elohim and we being his people and doing what he said and keeping his testimony? This word ayin dalet also means testimony and witness. So you say, as I said before, we have statutes, laws, ordinances, Torot, instructions, and testimonies. The testimonies are the ayin dalet vav tav. Vav tav is plural. What are the testimonies? The same word testimony, which if you have a court of law, you can't just, hey, I did this and he did that. Okay, we're going to believe you and you're, of course, there's some secret groups that say, take the word of this guy regardless of the witnesses. However, what Yahweh says is that the man who speaks one thing has to have at least 2 or more witnesses to validate and corroborate his testimony for it to be regarded as true. 2 or more witnesses. That word witness, ayin dalet. Ayin dalet are the witnesses that validate whether a word is true or not. So when Yahweh has to have 2 or more witnesses, and when I'm doing like this, one on this side and one on that side, when you say forever and ever, that end ever is leolam va'ed. That word ever, ayin dalet. To infinity and beyond. Forever and ever. How do you get beyond infinity? It's ludicrous. How do you have and ever after forever? Because it's that witness, it's that testimony. So it's this and these 2 guys on either side that validate. Now, this one time a few years ago, we were having this get-together party kind of thing, and I thought, oh, let's put up a whiteboard and we'll say, how many things did Yahweh give us with 2 witnesses? I thought there might be maybe a dozen. We ended up with like 50 or more. It's like we ran out of room. It's like Ephraim and Yehuda, sun and moon, spring festivals, fall festivals, on and on and on and on. Yahweh always has these 2 witnesses validating his word, and it's just amazing when you see how many there is. The point is, the Moedim bear witness of Yahweh, his character, his nature, his identity, his Torah, his ketubah. Ketubah is writings, but it's also marriage contract. You sign a ketubah, prenuptial agreement. When they said everything Yahweh said we will hear and we will do 3 times, as Charlene was telling us, they were swearing 7. The word savah is 7. They were swearing an oath of fidelity to that ketubah. The typical Jewish wedding ceremony, the bride walks in circles around her husband 7 times. Why? Because she's encircling him, swearing an oath of fidelity. When we go around the year, keeping these 7 festivals, we're keeping an oath of fidelity. We're swearing fidelity to Yahuwah according to the testimony and witness that he gave us. It's a means of saying, I still and again promise my allegiance, my faithfulness to you as we keep these festivals. And so to take away the festivals is to destroy, as it were, and I point to a wedding ring. I don't wear one because I do construction work and it's a big problem. But my point is, Jews don't wear it on this finger, they'll wear it on that finger. It doesn't matter. Some people say it's pagan. It's like, well, I'm just talking about this being sealed by this constant reaffirmation. So the 7th day, Shabbat, 7 is to swear a vow of allegiance. It's the same model. Every time you keep the 7th day Sabbath is saying, I yet reaffirm my oath. Every time you keep one of the Moedim. Now here's another little picture, not to go astray from this, try to get back on track. But imagine, ladies, if your husband gives you this beautiful pearl necklace, 50 exquisite pearls, each one different. And not only in the 50 pearls, you've got 7 other gems. And he gives you this beautiful necklace for you to wear. You go, wow, that's really nice. There's nothing like it. Would you pick up a hammer and smash one? Say, why did you do that? I just felt like it. And then you smash another one. Well, why'd you do that? Well, I like to see the way it explodes, and I don't know, I just don't care about this necklace. And you smash another one. And your husband is like, this cost me my life to give this to you. What are you doing? Each Shabbat we break is breaking one of those pearls. Each Moed that we miss because we just don't care is taking what it cost him, his blood, his life, his passion is in each one of these. And we just don't care. We just don't care. These are his Moed, his testimonies. Were those nailed to the cross? No. Something was nailed to the cross, but it wasn't his testimonies. The days of Mashiach, the 1,000-year reign, did he reserve the 7th millennium? After all, he gave us a week as a model, as a pattern. 6,000 years, common years. The 7th is Kodesh. When he was designing the history of the planet, do you think he maybe, speculation, might he have reserved this 7th millennium exclusive for his people, if his people would come back? We talked about this 2007 30-year curse. You go to Leviticus 26, 4 times. I never did finish that concept here. 4 times he says, if you guys profane my covenant, halal, if you act casual, whatever, just smash one. If you act casual towards my stuff, then like your vow, 7, Shavah, Shin Bet Ayin, like the vow, the curse will come upon you 7 times. The blessings would have been 7 times pressed down, shaken together, and overflowing. That was the promise. But like your vow, 7, if you profane my stuff and don't care and act with treachery, betraying me, betraying the words, then just like measure for measure, 7 times more, the violence and curse and nature going against you will happen to you. And despite all this, after that, if you persist in profaning and having no regard, then 7 times more. And he says that 4 times. It'll be, what will be? What curse will be enlarged by 7? Either 7 times the measure of violence or 7 times the duration. He gives them 4 shots, and if they still don't, it runs out to all 7. That seems to be what he's talking about. 4 times, 7 times what? This was his Leviticus 23. 500 years later. That was the days of Moshe, 1500 BC. David was approximately 1000 BC. You get to approximately 500 BC. 1,000 years later, in Ezekiel chapter 4, he tells Ezekiel, lay on one side, pointing at this kind of a painting, it's kind of a plaster model of Jerusalem being sieged. 40 days for the house of Yehuda, pointing at it, and then for another 390 days, that's over a year, laying on your other side, pointing at this thing for the house of Ephraim, the northern kingdom, showing their curse of banishment. Now, when Babylon took over Yehuda, the southern kingdom, and took them into exile in the days of Daniel, Ezra and Nehemiah came back. Daniel was in the library and contemplating these matters, and he realized, besides that 40-year thing, Jeremiah had said something about 7 years because for 490 years, the Shemitah year wasn't kept. Different calculation than the 40, but the point is, it overrode the 40 with the 70. But he says, hey, we've done our 70. We've done our time. We've served our sentence. So he appealed to Yahweh. He said, we sinned. We did. We were corrupt. You acted according to justice, according to of the contract. We got kicked out of the land, but we've done our time. We should get to come back. Yahweh said, that's right. Can we come back? Yes, you can. But he came back in the days of Cyrus. So Nehemiah and Ezra brought the people, whoever wanted to, came back to the land. That was the southern kingdom. What about the northern kingdom? Ephraim, the 10 tribes. They never came back. So if they were taken into captivity in 721 by Assyria, a different event than the southern kingdom, what happened 390 years later? You have to do the math and look into the history. That was days of the Maccabees, I believe, 721 BC, 390 years later. Another 390 years later, which is approximately almost 800 years later, is pretty close to 70 AD when Jerusalem was whacked. Yeshua came bringing a possible door. No thanks, we like it out here in Paganville. Shut down, so the lost 10 tribes are still lost. Another 390 years later, did they get 4 chances? Another 390 years? And when they still said, no, we like it out here. We like being banished. We like being heathen pagans. Yahweh says in another prophecy in the Nevi'im, he says, you will forget you were ever my people. You will forget I was ever your Elohim. You will be completely lost to your ancestral roots. We were talking about the word Celt. Celt. In Hebrew, this would be a gimel, the phonetic of G. This is the L, and this is the T. So if you have a gimel, lamed, vav tav, galut, gimel lamed, see this, like it's almost like the yin-yang, it's like a revolving door. It's something which the galut were those who were sent into exile. They were kicked out. But like the boomerang shape and like the revolving door that can turn, gimel lamed means revolving door. They're allowed to come back. When? They were given 4 shots at coming back after the 390 phases, of years phases, but because they didn't, then like 7, Shavah, like your betrayal, you will have, like the vow that you would be fidelity to the covenant. Now you have to do the 7 times. 7 times 390, the 390-day curse, the day for a year, is 2,730. The thing about the Celt and the word galut, the Celtic knot, which Rory does a fantastic job of drawing the Celtic knot. The thing about a Celtic knot, you know, all these little patterns, there's no beginning and no end. And I've perceived that that's a map of the banishment of the northern kingdom, the tribes of Israel. They forgot where they came from. They have no direction where they're going because they're goy with no rudder. Woo-hoo-hoo. And the terms of their imprisonment, their banishment, has become their glory. So the Celtic knot is this beautiful work. And it's not just Gaul, it's where you also get Galatian, the area of France, the Norse, they have the same thing, and the British Isles, they have the same thing, and it's beautiful work. You can find it all over their gravestones and all. But it's a map of the curse put on Israel for being kicked out of the land. And it's become their heraldry. And I'm not putting it down, but I'm saying, look, it's a model of the galut. But what happens? At the end of 2,730 years, well, from 721, do the math, it's 2010. So sometime before 2010, the world at large, all the various descendants and split off and intermingled goyim of the house of Israel were under the curse. Interestingly enough, I'm not claiming any glory, but I'm saying interestingly enough, that chart was made in 2010 as a way to bring back our perception of his word so that we can steer, so that we can, and in Jeremiah, I think it's in 23 around verse 20, I think, he says, he's talking to Ephraim, and he's, no, it's not Jeremiah 23, maybe it's 21. He says, make for yourselves stepping stones, or billboards. And the same word for billboard is zion or zanah, which are basically the same word for shield, I was telling you about the other day, which are basically like stepping stones to find your way back home. Like the trail of breadcrumbs that was eaten up by the animals and, you know, Hansel and Gretel. He's saying, make for yourselves, that's us, make for yourselves these billboards, these signs that you can find your way back to the derek, the way you're supposed to walk according to the terms of covenant. That's what we're doing. That's what this class is. Going back to figure out how to read. What did he say? What are we supposed to be doing? Why is it now, 2016, that we're talking about the phonetics of how to get back onto the path of the covenant according to these matters that he told us? That's what this is. We are fulfilling that prophecy here and now. This thing about Exodus 20, in all places, build an altar of earth, in all places that I allow or cause my name to be remembered. There I will come to you and bless you. That word of your flocks and of your herd, the word flock is those that go out, Zadi Aleph, which also means refugees. Get out of here. You're the galut. Scram, you're chased with the sword. And the word for explorer is actually boker, which is the word for cattle. So he says, one way to read that verse is, when you go out of this land, whether you're an explorer on expedition, Solomon sent ships out, or the refugees banished, whenever you go out there, make an altar of earth, offer your sacrifices, that which goes up, or feast peace, what I read as a barbecue, you get together and slaughter an animal, need that, the feast peace offering. And wherever I allow my name to be recalled, remembered, there I'll come to you and bless you. We're having a feast of a peace offering here, and we're recalling his name, so we have the legal right to invoke and petition him to say, please come and bless us. So we can say, hey Yahweh, look, we're out here dispersed for one reason or another. Please come and bless us here today. You said so. We name it and claim it. We claim that blessing because we are recalling your Shem, your name. And I have to believe that, amen, so be it. It is so. We are now receiving a blessing from Yahweh that if we had not recalled his name, if we had not gone back to his words, we would have missed. But why is it now, after 2010, that this thing is really picking up steam all around the world? I have to believe because he decreed that we're outside the envelope of that curse and we can now come back. Come back to what? What is the eben that hits the regal? Well, we went through all the meaning of regal, and if you look at one more entry in there that I didn't read, it also says that which you do frequently, that you're familiar with, the way you walk, customs, habits, and traditions. The regal are the customs, habits, and traditions of the system, Babylon, Media, Persia, Greece, and Rome, of the way you walk out, the holidays. What are the holidays in the year? The customs, habits, and traditions of the existing system, as opposed to the way you walk out the derek of the Aleph Bet, teaching and learning his ways. All these words are fit right in there. So the regal can also be read as the customs, habits, and traditions of the holy days. They're scattered throughout the year of the calendar, of the Gregorian calendar, of the culture, of the world system. And if we start walking a different way, we are impacting and conflicting with the regal of the world system to be the regal of Yahweh's system. What's going to bring in Mashiach? Oh, this stone has to hit the feet. What stone? Well, let's look at the word stone for a moment. Okay, now this is real simple. Aleph as a prefix means I will. What did Israel say 3 times concerning the ketubah, the Brit? I will hear and do what Yahweh said. Bet is to embody, it's an embryo, it's to put into form, which means not just, yeah, that sounds good to me. It's not theory, it's a practical reality, and our house is formed on account of it. As the container of it, it becomes real. Not just theory like Aleph, like I will, I propose, I intend, but it's like, it's solid, it's real. Hey, look, we're losing a week of work to sit here. It's tangible. Nun, remember, is the letter which is the fish that jumps. It's engaged in the action. It's not just, oh yes, we put the pictures on the wall. Not just that we have the music playing. We're engaged in the activity. Nun is a suffix, or vav nun, remember, like zion, Shabbat, Shabbaton, and resting, you'll really rest. The vav nun, or the nun suffix, means the doing of it. Okay, that's one way to read it. And with, I guess, I don't know if Shiloh's not here. The point is, you can look at a word with individual one letters, but now let's look at the two letters. The word spelled aleph bet, ab, is father. You look in the dictionary, you put a hey suffix, the feminine suffix, which is the expression, doesn't change it. Zadik is righteous. Zadikah is righteousness. So aleph bet with a hey is the ness of the ab. You look at aleph bet hey and in the dictionary and it says to want energetically or forcefully, or to not want and to oppose. So the ab, the father, is the one who says, hey, I want this to happen. I'm going to make a house. I'm going to find me a wife. We're going to have some kids. I'm going to build It's the one who has this idea that he's doing. But he says, no, we're not going to be doing that. So the father says, we're not going to celebrate these festivals. The wife, in the position of responder, in some model, ought to go, okay, we're not going to do that. Okay, we're not going to do that. And then she sees to it that the kids go along with the program. But it's the father who has that hands on the helm for directing and guiding. We're going to do this. We're not going to do that. If he wants to take the counsel of the wife, one thing, but his is the ultimate responsibility to make that decision, set the course, and go. And you better hope that he is a man of Yah, with the heart oriented towards the truth. I will have this passion, abba. What's bet nun? Ben, son. The word ben is son. The word ab is father. So here this word eben is father and son as one. Ben, the word spelled bet nun hey, bana, is the word construction, to build. It's the construction trades. Bone, English word, very similar, is the skeleton, that which has been ossified or hardened to give a structure. To build something is bet nun hey, bana. If you put a yod, like I said, a wild card of vavs and nuns, the word, if you have a vav in there, it would sound like bone. Bin, bina, bet yod nun hey, understanding, knowledge. So you have Chakma Bina Da'at, where you get the acronym of Chabad, which wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. Yada is to know. These words are all associated together. Knowledge, wisdom, understanding, to comprehend Yahuwah's stuff. So to anybody to put down them crazy Jews is insane just because they have a different way of teaching. I do not disparage the rabbis. They are diligent to pursue, and they regard themselves to have the authority to make decisions. And in their kingdom, the southern kingdom of Yehuda, that's their government. They can do whatever they want. In their tribe of Yehuda, Moshe orchestrated the 12 tribes at the word of Yahweh to set up leaders over thousands, over hundreds, over tens. We cannot put them down. And if they put together a Talmud of teachings, we cannot say that is wrong. They have the responsibility and the authority to determine things. We're doing the same thing. But I'm not of Yehuda. Maybe one of the 10 tribes? I don't know. That's for Yahweh to determine. If you read where he says he's going to bring them into the, it says wilderness of the nations, that word goyim, what does that mean? That's a whole other story, and he's going to separate them into the tribes. One of these days, when he brings us back, he'll put us in the tribes. But I'm just saying, don't sit there and badmouth those guys. We're supposed to be constructing with wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. Bana, as a good son. Remember, Yeshua came down here as a good son, and you hear the voice of the Father, this is my beloved son, in whom I'm well pleased. Listen to him. But those same voice of authority of the rabbinical Judaism have told their people, do not listen to him. Too bad. I could say shame on them, but I'm not going to say that, because all they know of this Yeshua is lies that the Christian church has told about him, saying that he did away with the Moedim, did away with the covenant, did away with the Shabbat, created a new religion. Don't worship that God of the Old Testament anymore. We have a new God, Jesus, the man God. Oh, gosh, that's a whole other thing we're not even going to get into. You cannot fault the rabbis for not recognizing Yeshua's HaMashiach if they turned a man into a god. We can't do that. Bravo for the rabbis for not worshiping a man as a god. Different story. We won't go there. But I'm just saying, we got to be real careful who we've been taught to despise and taught to hate wrongly by our leaders. What is a good son? We, as the son of Abba, have to embody, which is to take in and do what he said to do. So what is Eben? What is Aleph Bet Nun? Is that Israel finally doing Abba's desire? And if Israel, he said, Ephraim, is he not my favorite son, that the more often I think of him, I love him more and more. It's not all about Yehuda. The Jews are not the only tribe. And wrong for the Jews to think that everybody who comes back to the Torah is a Jew, has to be a Jew, or they're not allowed in the land. Judah, Yehuda, if you want help, you better hope Ephraim comes home. 10 tribes standing Yechad, Yod Het Dalet, conquering the world according to Abba's heart. That's the Messianic era. And it's not necessarily Jesus coming back sitting in Jerusalem with his laptop and cell phone. But it is the 12 tribes of Israel, the 2 sticks joined together as one, and all the nations will tremble and become as dead men, as that statue. And when Israel ebons, the regal, the statue falls and crumbles to dust, and that stone becomes the mountain filling the earth, which will not yield its sovereignty to another. This is a whole different way to see it. What if we have the 1,000 years in front of us? What if we've been lied to because they can't see the Moedim, the testimonies of Yahuwah? Then everything we've been taught is wrong. There's some value, there's some merit, but we might be standing right now at the threshold of this event, of this stone hitting those feet. And nobody's telling us so. We're looking, oh, that statue is so tall, their weapons are so sharp. There's this story I mentioned before, book of, I can't keep forgetting whether it's Joshua chapter 2 or Judges chapter 2. It says Yahweh was with Yehuda, and they conquered the giants in the mountains. Yahweh was with Yehuda, they conquered the giants of the mountains. Huge cities, big guys. But the tough guys of the valley had iron chariots, so Yahweh couldn't help Yehuda conquer them. Something's wrong. What does Yahweh care whether they have iron chariots? You look at the word iron chariots, Brazil, Merkabah, and if you put the letters there and look at them and look in the dictionary, it seems to say, surprisingly, astonishingly, like opening up a tap and draining all the water out of a cistern, a container, Judah, when they saw the iron chariots, their strength, their hope, their confidence in Yahweh drained out of them. So Yahweh couldn't help them. That's why Yahweh couldn't help them. Because Yahweh Merkab, he works with us in tandem. We must be able to look at the iron chariots and say, Yahweh is my Elohim. It's our confidence. It's our heart which allows him to work through us. It's not just us sitting here and seeing him do it. It's not us doing it in our own strength. It's Merkab. The two of us have to work together. That's the way he designed it. It's not me being presumptuous. I'm reading the words. We are an integral piece of this Mashiach era happening. And if we have the wrong vision, the wrong words, the wrong heart, if we don't know how to read these words of Hebrew, it will not happen. It can't happen. Yahweh has saved this 7th year. He said man was not made for the Shabbat, but the Shabbat for man. What does that mean? Does that mean I'm going to sit here and he's going to come and do it? Or does that mean he says, hey guys, you're 2010, you're outside the envelope of the curse. Here's my language. Here's my Ruach. Here's my Mashiach. Here's my Torah. Here's my covenant. Here's my promise. Here is me. Do you want me as your Elohim? Your father's generation said no. Your grandfather's generation, they were in the curse. They couldn't see it. They didn't hear it. They had Spurgeon and Billy Graham and Martin Luther and all these guys in the Pope. And it's like, it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. Here we are. How do we take this thing? The stone hits the feet, not with armed human conflict. I don't have to learn how to shoot guns to shoot their soldiers. It's not about that. It's about me walking out his festivals. Why those guys make me so mad? I'm going to sit down on Shabbat. That'll teach them. Yahweh said, I told you in quietness and rest was your strength. But you would not. I'm quoting a verse. I forget where it is. He says, no, we will run on fast horses. That's like F-16s and SR-71s and aircraft carriers and cruise missiles. And he said, very well. You will run on fast horses. And I'm going to give your enemies faster horses. Oh, gosh. Why would he do that? It's the arms race. He said, okay, you guys want to fight? Okay. The arms race. Look back over the last 2,000 years, 3,000 years. Talk about an arms race. This guy develops a different weapon, that guy develops a counter, and then this guy develops a counter, and boom, 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 boom. But Yahweh's saying, that's not the way you take this kingdom. And as long as we perpetuate the arms race, we get the head of gold, arms of silver, midsection bronze, legs of iron. Eben. How do we do the Eben hitting the regal? The answer to the mystery is in these words. So I'm trying to show you that in spite of your teachings, in spite of the prophetic utterances, we looked today at Jeremiah 23 this morning. He said, you've got these prophets and teachers and they've led you astray. They're not listening to me. Oh, but I had a dream. So fine. But he says, my word compared to the dream is like the chaff of straw that blows in the wind. Did this dream come from Yahweh? Who knows where dreams come from? Some dreams are cool, but he said, my word is the kernel. Where there's life, the DNA is in the kernel, not the straw that blows in the wind. Oh, but my dream is like a rock. Very well. My word is the hammer that crushes the rock which crushes the feet. It's the same thing. He says, and we were talking about, we read different translations this morning, and if you look at it in Hebrew, what it says is, what did Yahweh pronounce? There's that word pronounce, Hagah, right? What did he articulate? What did he say? What did he speak? It's all about letters and words and phonetics. So you have the Goyim with their dreams. Okay, fine. He said, listen, Israel, don't be bamboozled and befuddled and bewildered by the things you see in the stars. I've given that to the Goyim to attract their attention because they don't want me, but they live on the earth. I've given that to them. I've given you my word. So when you see mysterious things, oh, there's a comet, oh, there's planet Nibiru, oh, there's a... I've given you my word. They can have dreams. I'm not to say that nobody will ever dream. There's a prophecy about dreams and visions and prophesying. I'm not against that, but what did he say? What did he say? What did he articulate? What did he pronounce? It all goes back to the letters. Now, I could show you hundreds of verses and words that I found that corroborates this message. That he gave us words to break down into letters and phonics and syllables and so decipher him. I'm just trying to show you a couple right off the top to say, if this is true, then this is huge. This is really big because this very thing we're sitting here doing, I believe, is this stone. Well, where's Jesus coming back? Where is the Mashiach? Where's the reign of Mashiach? It's us doing this. We are the body of Mashiach. And Yeshua kept saying, hey, my kingdom's not of this world. Oh, okay, well that means that we have to go away and live 1,000 years in heaven. Or it's like, wait a minute, what if we've, again, the people that don't regard his name, his day, and his festivals, they're going to tell us what he meant? What's the testimonies? If you don't keep the testimonies, if you don't have no regard of the testimonies, how do you know you got the right guy? How do you know you're even on the right path? Now, I'm not saying we have all the answers. No, we at least have the key that fits the door, though, because otherwise it's the wrong door, the wrong key. And if you don't have the key, which is the Moedim, anyway, I could elaborate more and more, but I'm trying to keep this simple so at least you get it. Okay, so does anybody else have anything they see or they want to say or respond?
Often his Moedim, his appointed times, I should say, are mountains. The mountains will sit on all the other hills. There was another thought I had. And his mountain will fill the earth too. He will become a mountain.
I don't know if you can hear her, but she's talking about that his mountains rise up above all the other hills, and his mountain will fill the earth. Let me respond to what she's saying. If you have in your heart that the world history in front of us is the dominant takeover and destruction of this planet by the Illuminati, by the New World Order, US, UK, USSR, UN, put your favorite acronym, whoever, whatever. If you think that any part of this world empire gets to rule until the end, and then Messiah comes and then the world's over, then in front of us is nothing but doom and gloom. Now here, we had this conversation the other day, I'll mention it again for the sake of the recording. The people who think that because a day starts in the darkness, that the start of the 7th millennium will be terrible darkness, chosek, evil, violence, crushing, the destruction of 90% of the people on the face of the earth. If they think that that's the beginning of the millennium, then their only hope, their only expectation is we're going to be destroyed. Let's hide in caves until the caves fall in, or let's run until they catch us and they're going to nail us and 90% of us are going to die. That might be one option. Remember, Yahweh said choose life or death. And what he said, I believe when he was talking to Solomon, he says, see these very gates? Now Yahweh himself is proclaiming two paths. Either one of them is real, could be real. I'm not saying, well, one's real and the other one's not. No, I'm saying both are very real. And he says, if on Yom HaShabbat, if you bring your wares in through these gates to buy and sell on my Kadosh day, then out through these gates will come your people beaten, cut up, naked, everything torn off them, dragged in chains by your adversaries. But if you close the gate on Yom HaShabbat so that the buying and selling isn't happening and the commerce isn't happening, then through these very gates will come riding your princes dressed in beautiful attire, in dignity, riding on horses. Yahweh's going to provide that, or Yahweh's going to provide that. He says, your choice. Choose you this day. The 7th millennium is not necessarily going to be great. But it could be, because that's the option he gave us. We, each one of us, instrumentally could change the course of world history by what we do right now. There's another verse that he says that people were saying, I'm just a pawn, I'm just a peon. Not by me is it going to make one difference one way or the other. He says, because you say that, ruin is going to happen. He tells us that. What I'm saying is that each one of us, I mentioned before, is like you see a pond, perfectly still. One little pebble, the small little pebble. You throw it into the pond and poof, the ripples are immediate. And they go out to the complete edge of that pond, the smallest little pebble. No matter the insignificance of any one of us, we affect the entire surface. The entire universe is frequency, is something moving, electrons and protons. People have done, messages in water. You write the word on a cup and it changes the configuration of the molecule. Dr. Emoto did that. We don't know what's going on. What I'm saying is that scientists are discovering all kinds of things. Every word out of our mouth. Every day we sit down on Shabbat, that we retain this beautiful necklace that he gave us as these 50 Shabbats with the 7 gems of Moedim. Every Moedim we keep is savoring his Remember, the word ayandalet also means my jewel. Ayandalet yod, jewel, treasure, ornament. Yahweh himself has ornamented himself with these things and takes it from himself and gives it to us, and we break him with a hammer? We were taught to. We weren't given any regard. I could go on and on showing you other words and other verses that all play into that. But the point is, if we think, because a day starts at night, therefore this millennium in front of us, because a lot of people think we're at the edge of the 6,000 years, pushing into the 7,000th year, and whether that's true or not, there's this concept that's there. If we expect that right now we must go into deep darkness, then we set that up inside of us. And we expect it, we project it, we think it, we dwell on it, and we hope in dread for it. But if we thought, as Tim is suggesting, that the day starts at dawn, then suddenly Yahweh reigns. Then suddenly in front of us is all hope, is all dynamic, bright future. And it's decreed as such, because now we say, wait a minute, those bad guys don't have a chance. They're going down. There is no hope for them. They will not rule. They will not reign. They will not take over us. And what did Joshua and Caleb see when they went into the land with the other 10 spies? They said, the 10 spies said, these giants are too big. We're grasshoppers in their sight. They've got giant walls, cities. They've got sharp spears. They've got iron chariots. And Joshua and Caleb says, but we have the word of Yahweh. Well, the people listened to the 10 spies. Plan B, not plan A, plan B. They had to go into the wilderness for 40 years until they all died. Joshua and Caleb were the only two that made it into the land. They send other spies in. They meet up with Rahab, the harlot. But wait a minute. The other way to read that is she was a hotel keeper, an innkeeper, whatever she was. The same word as harlot or innkeeper. Oh, they go to the innkeeper and she says, what happened to you guys? 40 years ago, our fiercest warriors were as dead men, like that statue. They couldn't have resisted you. Why did you guys go in the wilderness for 40 years? You had us. We were nothing. But you guys saw our armor, a statue. We saw your God's word. You guys couldn't even hear his words, and yet he did it for you. 10 plagues in Egypt, and then as an 11th one, cream across the top, as surfeited the foam, he kills the entire army of Egypt. Their elite chariots wiped out. You guys didn't even see it? What's the matter with you? Well, then they took heart, and they came back, and the walls of Jericho fell, and they went into the land. But even though they're going into the land, they stumbled and fell because they kept doubting Yahweh's word. And like I said, the Memnun, right? The Kaf Lamed, this is the Torah, this is the instructions, this is what Yahweh said. Memnun, take it to heart. So all through for the first 5 books, he's telling us these are the words, this is the Kaf and Lamed, and then Joshua and Judges, this is the Memnun. This is take it to heart. Why didn't you believe me? How many times, read those 2 books, how many times has Yahweh said, why don't you believe me? What do I have to do to show you? Why don't you believe me? What more can I do? Why don't you believe me? Don't fear, don't fear, don't fear, don't fear. The most often repeated commandment, don't fear. Our challenge, onward Christian soldiers, is not keeping the sword at the bad guys. It's taking the sword to ourselves and say, don't fear. If we point the sword at ourselves and say, you better not fear, we'll win. If we point the sword at the other guy, the Islamic guy, the communist guy, the United States capitalist guy, whatever it is, if we point the sword at the other guy, we'll lose. It's not an arms race. We have to point the sword at ourselves and say, you better not fear. You better be strong and of good courage. Chazak! Be strong, of good courage. That's the battle. That's where we have to be. And if we do, Yeshua wasn't afraid. They knew nobody could touch him until it was his time. Okay, and then he went volitionally because he had a mission. What's our mission? Is our mission, okay, let them cut your heads off. Just get on your knees and let them cut your head off. Is that really our mission? Is our mission to say, look at the New World Order gets to reign until the end. Look at Daniel's statue. Ha ha, it gets to reign until Jesus comes back. Oh, please come back soon. What if it's not that? What if they gave us the wrong model? What if We've inherited lies. Oh, that's right, that's a Bible verse. In the future, that's us now, they're going to come back and grab a hold of the Zitziot or the Kanaf, the wing of one Jew, one Ish Yahudi, and say, hey, let us go with you because we've heard God is with you. Shemanu Elohim Amkam. Wait a minute, I'm going to suggest that that's wrongly translated. We have heard is not Shemanu. Shemanu is we hear. So somebody translated it as if 10 men, the pagans, the infidels, the Goyim, the lost tribes of Ephraim, are going to grab a hold of the shirt tails of one Jewish man and say, can we go with you? We've heard God is with you. But wait a minute. If those 10 represent Ephraim, and they say, hey, we Shema, we hear Elohim with you, as you do, the same heart. Let us walk together. That's what that word says. Shemanu Elohim Amcham. You see, we've been handed even a mistranslation. So when the 10 tribes of Ephraim lost in the world, where's Zitziot? Because, hey, look at the blue thread. You will remember my instructions to do them. And then you see Brother Yehuda and say, you want to walk together? We Shema Elohim, as you do, as you have a heart to, even though you were led astray and we were led astray. We have inherited lies. That's the other Bible verse. False, vain things that have no profit. They don't produce anything. You keep Christmas and Easter because you want to revere Jesus Christ, and yet they're empty. There's nothing in them. There's nothing in Sunday. It's an egg you broke open and it's rotten inside. It's not his stuff. Christmas and Easter are genetically modified witnesses. It's a GMO without life. The testifiers of Yahweh, the testimonies. His name Yahuwah is his Shem Zakar. The word Zakar means masculine. His masculine name with its testifiers, the two, one on each side, which gives the DNA of his identity, is Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, and his testifiers are the Moedim. Christianity has castrated the testifiers of Yahweh and replaced them with Easter eggs and Christmas balls with no life. It's not Sunday, Christmas, and Easter. It's the testifiers of Yahweh in the Moedim. And if people don't get that, like I said, Hebrew becomes rather lewd. No, it's real. The DNA of his seed that's planted in the womb of our heart is in the Torah. And for Christianity to have nailed the Torah to the cross or nailed his testimonies to the cross has emasculated the Father that they supposedly reverence, thinking because they've been lied to that they're honoring him on Christmas and Easter. They've been lied to. Empty, false words that has no life, nothing profitable, vain, halal. Christians, wake up. Rabbi Tovia Singer has this voice, and he's telling you, listen to him, but he doesn't apparently see Mashiach is Yahushua because the Christians have lied about him, calling him Jesus Christ, the one who has taken away these things. Rabbi Tovia Singer has many good things to say if you can hear him, but he has been lied to by the rabbinical authority as well. These words are dangerous and inflammatory, and whoever hears this tape, listen to the words of Yahweh, not me. Listen to the Torah. It's not me. It's not Christianity. It's not rabbinical Judaism. It's in these words, navigating, steering by the phonetic utterances where we think and ponder and dwell and hear the Ruach and our nephesh. The nephesh of Adam, of humanity, was designed to fit these words like a hand fits a glove. For anyone to tell us, you cannot know these things. They're too far away. Oh no, they're impossible. We were never meant to. Those are all lies. We were designed to. We were meant to. It is possible, and this kingdom of Mashiach will happen as we eben the regal. walking the halakha, the derek, the way, according to the aleph bet of Yodhe-Vavhe, as those domesticated of his house, yoked with him, with Yeshua, as he shows us the way to walk, which is the Samach Ayin Pei, which is do justly, love mercy, walk humbly with your Elohim, with your head in his yoke, walking the derek, the straight path of truth. It's all his stuff. It all fits. And we are here and now at this threshold of the reality of the expression. And if we think the kingdom is at our hand, it's like the story of King Arthur. The squire, the guy, hey, go get me my sword. Oh, where's the sword? And he pulls the sword out of the rock, and here it is. Hey, where'd you get this sword? Oh, it's right over there. What? Who could pull this sword out of the rock? Who can pull this aleph bet? Where it's been lost, where Daniel was told to hide it and seal it. Here it is. Do you know how incredible this day is? Thank you, Yahweh. The kingdom is at our hand. Seize it. Thank you, Yahweh. Anyway, does anybody else have anything they want to throw into this? Yes, Charlene.
Talking about the mountain, there's many scriptures, but this is a favorite in Isaiah 2. And can I just read?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Now it shall come to pass in the latter days that the mountain of the Lord's house shall be established on the top of the mountains, and shall be exalted above the hills, and all nations shall flow into it. Many people shall come and say, Come, let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, to the house of the God of Jacob. He will teach us his ways, and we shall walk in his paths. For out of Zion shall go forth the law, and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. He shall judge between the nations, and shall rebuke many people. They shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore.
That's it. That's this whole thing. That's exactly the verse you were referencing. This is exactly the opposite message of what I hear preached for the last 50 years. This is that message.
It's all over the Old Testament.
It's all over if you can see it. This is what the Jews see, which is why they can't believe Christianity, because they read that and believe it. But they don't see the manifestation. Why? Because it's been hidden until after 2010. It's been given perhaps to Ephraim to come in and say, hey, we Shemanu Elohim, I'm come. Let's go together. It's all right there. If I choose to believe that this is a reality, then the statue is going down. And as I choose to see that thing going down, could it be that our holding his words and envisioning it? Remember, Yahweh says, I gave you my word. Can you hear it? Because I'm listening to yours. I'm listening to your words, and you can have whatever you say. And if you say, oh, he just brought us out here to kill us because there wasn't enough graves in Egypt, he says, don't say that. But we kept saying it, and that's what we got. If we keep reading that and saying it's here and now, those guys are going down, then that statue's going down, which includes all those little acronym groups that I mentioned. And I have nothing to fear of them. No matter how much they send me letters and threaten me, which, you know, the county, the state, the feds, they're doing it. They're doing it. I've got to go home and deal with these guys. But I have to hold on to that. I have to have this picture in my mind of this stone hitting that statue and that verse being true. And then when I hear the Christian preachers and the different things and the voices on the radio, and it's like those guys control the airwaves. I can't listen to that voice. I have to listen to this voice. And I'm telling you, if you get into Hebrew and just start reading these words, you will hear that voice. Get the dictionary, read the words. It has to take root inside of you. I can only water the seed as much as I can, which isn't a whole lot. But the seed is in you. It's his word. Help each other. Nurture each other. But you must believe that's true. Do not listen to the voice of the 10 spies. Do not listen to the voice of Goliath. You can't listen to the voice of Balaam and Balak. And I could show you many verses which all play into it, but that's great. That's right there. That's the heart of the message. Anybody else? No?
We're just going to go up to the mountain.
Just bathe in it. And remember this word shiach is swimming. Immerse yourself in this. Immerse yourself in the truth.
You swim in water.
That's right. The Mashiach is the water that fills this trough of, and then you look at the letters for Shin Yod Het, and like I said, it's his words. It's the communication. Immerse yourself swimming in the waters of his communication. That's Mashiach.